everybody. Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Kristen Frashella. I work here in the Career Center, and I put on events and the job fairs, and I help people with their resumes. And I'd like to introduce Lydia Deans. She's a career counselor who works especially with the career technical programs, but she helps students of all kinds find all kinds of jobs. And today we're having a panel, as you know, about automotive careers. I would like to introduce Bob Staccaro from the Automotive Program. Thank you for being here, Bob. Is there anyone else that you would, I guess Dave left, so he's not around. But Dave was here. Dave Brainerd was here. He's also an instructor there. And I'm going to introduce our three panelists, and I'm going to let them basically tell their story. This series is called How I Made It, which, don't be intimidated, guys. But this is for people to tell their story of how they got into the job that they're in, what their path was, maybe what they did before, what they're doing now. And then really I want to give you a chance for you all to ask questions of them and ask them what their job is like or anything you want to know about the field. So in no particular order, Phil got here first, so I'm going to let him go first. Phil, I should have probably done this before the film was rolling, but Phil Unander? Unander, excuse me. Unander, he's the owner of Larry's Auto Parts. And without further ado, I'm just going to let you tell your story.
Okay. And I'll warn you against, you should never give somebody 10 minutes to speak about themselves because they're just going to start rambling on and on and on.
I have a hook. So
I understand. You did make that very, very clear in the very beginning. When I was, and I'm 60 now, okay, that's not a real mystery, but when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I started working in a service station. I had to write this down because when you get to be 60, you start losing, you get sidetracked and you forget what you're talking about. I started working in a service station on Milton Street of all places. I was from the Lower East Side. And I had an interest in cars, and I started somewhere in the process taking an auto shop class from Santa Barbara High School, and I liked it. I graduated from high school. I'd shifted jobs a couple times in the service station, and out of high school I thought, well, I need something more as a full-time job. And I never really intended to go into the parts business at all. But you're looking for a job like right now, you're looking for a job and you may inadvertently have any kind of a job that falls in your lap. And I got a job as a driver. I called car parts on Milton Street and they were looking for a driver. So I started working there during the daytime and my service station job at night. And I never really intended to stay. I thought this is going to be a transition job until I find out what I really want to do for my career and my life. And I want to go be president of General Motors or some big career thing, and automotive instructor, you know, like Bob, something, you know, and never really thought I'd end up there, and, you know, this many years later. So I'm working there and I'm a driver, and I like it. It's kind of fun, and we're kind of the hub of the wheel where we're taking parts in from suppliers and we're dispensing parts out to the shops that are working on them. And then I got married, and I enrolled in City College, and I was enrolled in mechanical engineering classes, and I really liked that, but it was really boring. And I decided I really needed to work full-time and not go to City College. And so I went back to the parts house and I said, I want a full-time job, and they gave me a full-time job. I quit working in the service station. And I've always grew up, my dad raised me as being a hard worker, and so you work hard, and this is a general lesson in anything you do. You apply yourself and you work hard. Do the best you can at the job you do, and things generally happen to you and for you for the better. So the next thing I knew, I'm a driver. The next thing I knew, I'm working on the counter. Next thing I knew, there was an opening in a machine shop that we had, and I'd been doing a little machine work, and I became the machine shop person and then the machine shop manager. And every time an opportunity opened up, I was the person in the right place at the right time, and so I kind of moved up the ladder. In about 1971, and way back then, it was American parts stores were American parts stores, and foreign cars, they were not mixed. Foreign cars were not the same thing. We decided, to the people that owned the store I was at, decided to open a foreign or an import store. And I was the, okay, you're doing good, you're working hard, let's give you the advancement, put you in here. So I became the manager of a one-man parts store. So I was the only employee, but I was the manager. It was a pretty fancy title. And I kind of took it from there. And I took that job and morphed that into eventually buying my way into it when there was an opportunity. Saved my money, saved my pennies, bought my way into it. And I never had a a grandfather that died that left me a lot of money, and I think everybody's in the same position. Everything was $1 an hour and $1 at a time. Became a part owner in the store, worked harder, and the partner that I was involved with then, we expanded, we bought another store, and it seemed like it worked out. It was a tough road, and it's not all just a great slide that you're going this way. There were lean years, lots of problems in partnerships, and I finally got completely out of that and became the sole owner of a parts store that we bought in Goleta that was owned by a guy named Larry. We bought that out, and then I eventually bought my partner out. I left Milton Street, and in 1983 I ended up in Goleta with my wife and I as the sole owner of that thing. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to ask you a quick question. Anybody have your parents in business of any kind? Raise your hand. Nobody? Okay, that's good. Anybody here have the vision of being in business for yourself as what a great thing to do because you're the boss? You can name your own hours, you can work those half days, you can take as much time off as you want.
Really?
Really?
That's not what I was in the boss. I worked twice as hard.
Shut up, I'm getting there.
Sorry.
I'm going to give you an example of what my and I'm not complaining, and I'm not looking back, and if I had it to do all over again, other than going to work for the city in some job where I could actually retire with a pension, I wouldn't do it all. I wouldn't do it any differently. I'm really happy with what I do. But my schedule, I work about 60 hours a week. I work 6 days a week. I had worked 5 days a week, but the economy being what it is now, I'm back on working 6 days a week. And so any way I can splice that 60 hours out, it's the time I put in. I was in Goleta this morning at 5:30. I'm there every Wednesday at 5:30 in the morning. I'm there Saturday morning at 5:30 in the morning, and that's just what it takes to get into my business early and do the kind of stuff. When I get done here tonight, I'm involved in an automotive organization that Steve and I and Bob, you there? Bob, you there? We have a meeting to go to tonight, so it's another. So our days are filled. There's lots of stuff to do, and it's not just business, but it's extracurricular stuff that we get involved in. But we like doing it. We do it because we like it, and we do that to give something back. I work in 60 hours a week now. I started off in '83 to about '85 or '86, working 90 hours a week. For a long time, I worked 7 days a week. I've been there around the clock. I worked in my business 24 hours straight. I've been there at midnight. I've been back there at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And so all of these kind of things, if you want to raise your hand and you say, yeah, I want to be the boss, it's not an automatic shoe-in that you're going to be half days. And like, it could be the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours. That's what they call half days. So
Got to get it done.
got to get it done. When you're the person that owns the business, it has to be done, and you're the one that's responsible for making it done. And your paycheck comes last after everybody else, all your employees get paid. If there's money left over, terrific. If there's not, you're the one with the empty pockets, and you keep plowing on to the next one. So I like the parts business, and I think it's fascinating because I kind of equate this whole business as, and any business, but like there's a wheel. Here's the manufacturer, here's AC Delco, they make parts, they make spark plugs. They sell the plugs to somebody or to us. We then turn around and we dispense those to the shop, to the end user. You come into my store, you buy them over the counter for your car. You're working in a shop, you're the mechanic, we sell to the shop. So everything kind of flows through us. And if we end up being the hub of the wheel, we take the information, we take the year, the make, the model, and we turn that into hopefully the correct part. We send it out. Now don't be laughing at me now. You're laughing with me, right?
With you, only with you. I may need a job.
It is an incredibly complicated business, and it is far more complicated now than it was 30 years ago. Once in a while I wander over to San Marcos High School and I talk in their RFP class, and I'll make a list of all the different makes and models that were there in 1970, and I'll make a list of all the makes and models that are there now, and it's like it was 175 then, it's like 1,000 now, and it's, how many models of Toyota are there, plus all the models of Toyota that there were all through the years, and we have to be responsible for all of those things, taking that information, putting that to the right part. Is that my bell? Okay. You're not pulling a card on here. We have to get that right part. And it gets complicated, and it's not an exact science, and there's a ton of stuff that goes wrong. And I like to think that what makes us better than some of the other people, or what makes us, we're the problem solvers. So when you buy that fuel pump for that '03 Chevy truck and it's not right, what do? We got to figure out why it's not right. We got to figure out if it's the wrong model, the wrong year, the wrong VIN code, the wrong production date, the wrong size bed, the wrong size wheelbase, and we got to figure out what it is. And maybe it's made in Canada, maybe it's made in 3 places in USA, and they're all different fuel pumps, and that's the kind of stuff We take all that information, assimilate it together, and hopefully kick the right part out. But that's, I have a guy that works for me, and his son was supposed to be here tonight, but he apparently didn't make it. He's my manager, and he followed the same path that I did. He started working in the parts store. He was kind of a driver. He was a counter guy, and I have often kidded with him. Robert Clark is his name. I said, this store could be yours someday. I will sell you this store. I will make you able to buy this store. And he goes, yeah, no. He sees what I do. He sees what I go through. He sees the anguish. And I actually had hair when I was younger, and that's what a lot of this stuff, it burns it off. He sees what I go through, and he doesn't want to be, and he's happy being. He's an exemplary job for me as a manager. He's everything that I always was. He's as good as I ever was at this job, but he does not want to rise above the level of manager. He's happy with that. So there's a lot of career paths in the parts industry, whether you want to be a business owner or whether you want to be, and I got a guy working for me that's been with me 12 years now as a driver, and he loves being a driver. He comes in the morning, he does my freight, he makes my Santa Barbara run back and forth all day long. I let him he brings his boys to work. He's a single parent. He takes them to school. He picks them up after school, and I work around his schedule, and we try and, we work as a family, we do that together, but he is happy in that job. He does not want to move up to the counter position, and he's not making as much money as a counter guy, but he's happy with it. He lives within his means, and life is good for him. So there's a lot of career opportunities in the parts industry. In that way, the parts store, there's warehouses in other cities other than this, which can be, supply and demand kind of a thing, or supply any warehousing kind of thing. So there's a lot to it, but that's it.
Thanks, Phil. That was great. I'm going to introduce Steve now. Steve Bowman. He's the owner of Bowman Auto Repair.
Yes.
Welcome, Steve.
Okay, I'm Steve Bowman again, Bowman's Auto Repair. I started my business in 1988. I've been there ever since. I'm going to back up. I had a pretty good opportunity in La Colina Junior Highs, where I learned how to gas weld, cast ashtrays in aluminum, and they had wood shop, metal shop there, and I loved that kind of stuff. I was always a hands-on kind of kid. Back in the neighborhood, friends had mini bikes and go-karts with Briggs & Stratton's engines on it, and I'd be the guy that's kind of tuning them, getting them going, and that was me. Then I got into motorcycles, and then with my knowledge of learning how to weld at junior high, I was welding tune pipes up for my Yamaha motorcycle to kind of fine-tune the exhaust so it'd have different power bands, and I enjoyed doing that, and used to lift a few blue chip stamp signs from gas stations to use for my pipes. You remember the day. But that was my thing. I was really into that, and then went to San Marcos and went to auto shop class there. Bob Mullaney was a teacher there, and he was a real stickler for details and engineering aspects, and I learned an awful lot from that man. And as being a young high school student, you're kind of annoyed by the guy, but looking back, he's the best teacher ever. He really covered the stuff, and you learned a lot of basic engineering stuff that you use today. And I also took electronics class with Mr. Herzog at San Marcos, and building circuit boards and all kinds of crazy stuff, and that knowledge using Ohm's law and everything, it's more so today with computers. I use that information every day I learned in high school. So knowledge just stays with you forever. So I was very fortunate and stayed with that program. Came to City College and got in the Automotive Program with Mr. Tysell. He was here at the time, and went through the whole program, got an Ayers degree here in City College, and graduated, and got a job at a dealership, worked at the dealership. We did Chrysler, Plymouth, Jeep, Eagle, Renault, Saab, learned all that stuff. And then in 1988, opened up my own shop. I had about 12 years under my belt. I was pretty confident what I was doing, and I started the shop. And damn it, I had to go back to school because now I need to learn how to do spreadsheet. Got to do taxes. Yeah, I got to think about payroll. So here I am, 30-something, going back to City College, taking some courses, and so that's very important. If you ever think, I saw a lot of hands wanting to do their own business classes, learn how to do QuickBooks. You got to do payroll. There's all kinds of taxes and things you got to deal with employees, and work comp, and environmental, stuff you got to deal with your waste oil filters. It goes on. Fire department wants a piece of it because you got hazardous materials on your property. You got to have a business plan for that. So the list goes on being your own owner. It doesn't stop just turning wrenches and fixing cars and collecting money. There's a lot of responsibility. So that's a good tip I can give you is, get your education, stick with it. And I was telling Phil earlier, back in his day, he had to look for parts book this thick. Now he clicks a mouse to find the parts. So his eyes are a lot better for that. And I'll tell you, training, I went to a Volvo training class for a weekend. We had at least 14 hours of training on the new Volvo stuff with all the new downloads and computer stuff they have in the car. Every year we're going to different training classes. The technology is changing faster than I can learn it, so it's just incredible. You'll always be going back to school and training, so you just don't even get that out of your mind. You can be sitting in a classroom and listening to some instructor just boring you to tears, but some of it's really good. And I just happened to have a good time with the instructor. We had two master Volvo techs training for class and a retired Volvo instructor from Volvo North America there too to train us, and top-notch guys learning all about the 010 stuff that they're dealing with now and the 012s that are coming out, some of this technology. And just I'll share something I didn't know, but Volvo has one key system in their newer high-end cars where you can unlock your car if a red button light is flashing on your remote. There's a heartbeat in the car. There's a sensor in the car that senses a heartbeat, and it won't sense a cat heart or a dog heart. This is a human heartbeat. So that's the technology to put in these cars, and we have to figure out how that's going to work if it doesn't work. And so it's just amazing, the technology, and Bluetooth technology, and how you can dock your iPads in your car now, and you tell the car, turn the temperature up. You see it on TV, turn the temperature 70 degrees, turn the radio station so. All that technology is in the car. You're going to have to fix that. So and you got to know computers and electronics. Like I said earlier, I learned electronics in high school, still use that today. It's the strongest class you could possibly take, because all of it's just, you're talking about millivolts, milliseconds, and you got to learn how to use a lab scope very proficiently, because all this stuff is just out there. Any questions? Before I scare you too much.
Well, let's move on to Sean, and then thank you so much, Steve.
All right.
And then we'll have questions.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sure there's lots of questions. I already have some.
Good.
This is Sean Duggar.
Duggar, yeah.
Got that one right. Sean Duggar, who works for Ayers Auto Repair. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. My name's Sean Duggar. I am a ASE Master Certified Automotive Technician with my L1 Advanced Certificate. I've been in this industry for about 16 years now. Had a little bit different introduction to it. 16, got my license. First thing I did was go out and break my dad's truck. And I had to pay for it. So after paying for it, I had the guy that fixed it explain to me what he did. And went home and crawled underneath the truck and looked at what he did. I thought, that can't be too difficult. And I'm pretty mechanically inclined. And I know I'm going to go out and break his truck again. I don't want to pay for it. So I enrolled into the Automotive Program at San Marcos High School. And the Automotive Program was actually kind of a savior for me because, in high school, I struggled. I was bored. I was not challenged. And so my grades suffered. And when I got into the ROP program, it motivated me to get through the rest of my classes, because part of being in the ROP program was you had to keep your grades up and you had to have good attendance. So it really did. It helped. It helped me get through high school. And from there, the instructor there, Bill Brand, I talked to him about asked him if he knew anybody that was looking to hire someone to start working in the shop, and he introduced me to Robert and Nikki Ayers, and I was almost 18 at that point. It was my senior year in high school, so I started working for Ayers, and I started as just the cleanup guy. I would clean the shop, wash cars, help the guys whenever I could. And after high school, I started taking classes up here at City College, automotive classes with Bob Sacaro. And I got bored because it was there was, just working or cleaning the shop, washing cars. I really wanted to get out there and start working on the cars. And the opportunity just wasn't there at the time. So I got a little bored, and I took a break and went to the military. But the automotive background gave me some pretty interesting opportunities in the military. Even, my job had nothing to do with cars or fixing cars, but I was put in charge of what we call our motor pool NCO. So basically, I was in charge of my platoon's Humvees. And so I oversaw the maintenance and repair work for our vehicles. And the fun thing about that was, if one of them went down in the field, I got to go out, help them get it out, recover it out of the field, oversaw the repair, and then I got to go take it back out to where it broke down and test it to see if it was going to fail again. And from there I went and actually took over our company's motor pool, so at that time that was about 6 pay grades above what I was being paid at the time. But it was interesting, and it wasn't just Humvees, it was all our vehicles that we were assigned to our company. So didn't really repair any of them, but like I said, I was in charge of all their maintenance and repair, make sure everything was taken care of on it. But got out of the military and needed a job, so I came back to Robert Nicky and said, I need a job, and they had an opening as a service advisor, which wasn't really my thing, but I got in and wrote service for them for about a year, and turned around and started continuing my education with Bob Secure up at City College. And they had a position open up out in the shop, and I jumped on it. You didn't have to ask me twice. I moved out to the shop and started just doing oil changes, and just slowly working my way up to where I'm at today. And today, Ayers Automotive, we have 2 locations. Their main location that they've been for 30 plus years, Corner Chapala in Victoria. And then 3 years ago, they opened a location on Anacapa Street, just down the street here. And the economy being the way it was, we really didn't have, it's just not as busy as we'd like it to be at that shop, so there's only one technician, and that's me. So I've got a huge shop that I get to run all by myself, and one of my bosses is there, but Nikki, she stays in the office, and I'm in charge of the entire shop, which is kind of nice. It's a huge shop, and I can put 3 cars in the shop and have all 3 of them torn apart. And part of this job is really being able to multitask. And you could be working on this car here, while you're in your head you're diagnosing this car, and on this car you're planning on how you're going to complete it, and you got deadlines. People need their cars. You tell people they're not going to have their car for 2 days, they panic. Even in Santa Barbara, where you could take the bus or a bike anywhere, people panic when you tell them they're going to be without a car for a while. So you got to be able to, reassure your customers that it's okay, and we'll get your car fixed in on time. And so it's a high stress industry, but it's a lot of fun. But the education is key. It's big. It's continuing. It's continuous. We've got CTI classes, which is put on by CarQuest, and we do those every other month. So that's 2 nights a week after work, and so that usually goes from 6 to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and then you got to drive home. And I live in Lompoc, so I've got to commute both ways. But and then on top of that, we've had hybrid class that we did at the shop. We've also did a Volkswagen Audi class that we've done at the shop. So we've had, it's just constant, continual training. So it's something that you have, it's a commitment. You can't just go in, put your 8 hours in, and go home. You show up. I get to work at 7. I don't put in quite the hours Phil does here, but I also have a little more hair than he does too. So
Everyone does.
Yeah. But I start at 7 o'clock. If there's something to do at 7 o'clock, I'm doing it. And lunchtime is at noon. But if the car's not done and that customer's waiting for it, it's got to be finished. So you may miss your lunch. And 5 o'clock's the end of the day. But if that car's not done, you're staying 6, 7, sometimes 8 o'clock at night. It's whatever it takes. It's a huge investment, but it's what you need to do to keep the business running. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, now I'm going to just open it up to some questions. I think it's really interesting for some reason that the economy has impacted your business because, I mean, it seems like in Southern California everybody needs their car and everybody needs it fixed, but I guess people just kind of make do with spit and paste a little more than they used to. Does anybody have a question right off, or should I ask a couple, or anybody have a burning question for one of these guys?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
Sean, when you said that you were willing to stay there till 7 or 8 o'clock as an employee, that's unbelievable. Most people today, 5 o'clock, and
Well, you know my bosses, so.
well, I mean,
No.
it's just to let everybody else know. That's the kind of attitude that you got to have if you really want to keep a job. You know, you just have to do what it takes to get the job done and be happy doing it.
You do have to find a happy medium with that. I mean, because especially like I said, with the economy being the way it is, it's getting tougher and tougher out there. So you've got to be willing to make that commitment.
Well, some of us don't mind it.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, like some of us, like, you know, I grew up turning wrenches at the age of 9 years old. I just really regret not going to, I mean, I took automotive class in high school. My life took a different path, and I just recently got back to City College. But I've always had a passion for engines. My uncle used to build engines for me. I used to watch him build cars from the ground up, just starting with a frame. And then to see what he used to put together and see the aftermarket, it used to blow my mind. I used to love that. You know, so I've always had, it was always a part of me, and I like staying out there until 12 o'clock in the morning and watch him tear down a car, and he wouldn't stop until he was done. He wouldn't stop until that car fired, and then he'd go to bed. You know, and part of me has that a little bit in me too. You know, you gotta get the job done, especially when you're talking about customers.
Yep.
I think you touch on a good point. All three of these gentlemen mentioned that this was just something they loved. Phil, you just loved cars, and you had an aptitude for welding and making things work, and
I just
you
didn't
know.
want to pay for the repairs anymore.
Yeah, you had a really heavy motivation there. You wanted to drive recklessly, basically.
Yeah.
I can relate to that one. I trashed my my mom's boyfriend's truck like when I was 16 years old. So I just bent it back into shape. I have one question for each of you, and it's just, what do you think is the major skill or strength that you possess that really serves you in your job or in your business? What do you think? You know, we get that question a lot in interviews. You know, like, well, what do you think is your one best quality, or you know, what's really serving you in your career or your business?
Yeah, you know, I'll start. I think, you know, I always was very mechanically inclined, but more so than that, there's a desire to learn, and you know, it's like today's cars. You know, it's not just being good with your hands. I mean, you got to be a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer. You got to be able to look at something, be able to figure out how it comes apart, and be able to put it back together. I mean, growing up, I was always taking stuff apart. You know, I got in trouble because I didn't put it back together because I didn't care. You know, I got it apart. I knew how it worked. I didn't need to put it back together. But I got grounded because I took the weed whacker apart. And my stepdad went to use it and it wasn't working. You know, but it's the desire to learn. You know, and you've got to be open to all different types of learning. I mean, it's not just one thing. I mean, every instructor you'll have is going to teach it teach it differently. And you've got to be open to the technique and absorb the information.
Yeah,
That's
I
huge.
think that's really important. Especially with how much engines have, I mean, automobiles and the industry has changed. I mean, you really have to adapt. Like you were saying, you did a clinic over the weekend, you know, to learn how to do some of this new stuff.
You know, I would say my strength would be, you know, diagnostic skills and understanding how the product works, and just having all those tools in my pocket to do the car correctly and fast and efficient. And well, actually, it's a learning experience every day. And there's nothing that's you take for granted. You think one time you fix it this way, and next time it's something totally different. You go, man, it's not fun. But you try to hone your skills, and it just takes persistence and understanding how it really works. And sometimes just the basic thing as a loose or corroded wire in the system will drive everything crazy. And you'll spend hours chasing your tail, and all it was that one connector. So, you never shortchange your basic stuff. You got to know how that system works and what everybody needs, and you eventually hone in on it. And that's your strength right there, is just understanding, knowledge of the system. So.
We have a training class, as Sean said, that we put on, CarQuest puts on, and the instructor that teaches our training class made this comment at the very beginning of these classes, which was 10 years ago now. And he said, there's no doubt in my mind, speaking from him, there's no doubt in my mind that every technician in this room can fix every problem on every car, period. He said, but you need to do it fast. If you have enough time, enough money, and enough parts to throw at it, every technician in this room can fix every problem on every car in the world, not a problem. But what he tries to teach these guys is their diagnostic skills so that they can actually do it. So my business, and I think all three of ours, our level of technical expertise is not nearly as high as what these guys have to do. But everybody in all three industries, we have to be smart. And I have guys working for me that are different levels of intelligence. And the ones that are smarter just do the job better. The ones that are not as intelligent, their heart might be in it, they might like it, they might not be as quick, they might not be able to reach a conclusion. I mean, as these guys are making snap decisions and diagnostic skills, and they have to follow a path, what happens, this, well, that happens, and you go that path, just any diagnostic, whether it's computers or cars. And we're doing essentially the same thing. We're juggling, we're taking these 6 oranges, and we're doing this, and somebody throws a 7th one in there, and you drop one, and then somebody throws a red apple in there, and it's this one, and then we're doing that. So constantly we're just multitasking and doing it all day long. So you just got to have some level of intelligence to do it. That's the biggest tool and the best tool I think all of us can use.
Yeah, and be a multitasker. I heard a couple of you say that.
Mm-hmm. It's not a job for everybody, and I've seen people in my industry that were great at something else that didn't require those skills, but not good at what our industry was. And I wouldn't be good at what they ended up doing, but
Right.
it's just a different set of skills.
Well, and also with in the industry, Sean, you were saying how your first job when you came back from the military was, I forget what you...
Service writing, it's,
So-
yes. service
like
advisor.
writing up the tickets,
Right.
taking the people
Dealing
and
with
whatnot.
customers and stuff like that.
I
yeah.
recently had my oil changed at, shall remain nameless, starts with a J and ends with a lube. And the guy who was doing that intake was fabulous at it. I mean, he was a fabulous salesperson, and I was wondering if he was as good at the other stuff, and sometimes that's an important piece of the puzzle in your career quest is like, what part of this industry that you may be attracted to or love are you suited to? And it seems like you guys really kind of found your way, and I love the story about the guy who's the driver, who really found his niche within your business, and it's working for his life, and he's doing a good job, and you're lucky to have him, and he's lucky to have you.
We've seen in this industry, on all of our different levels, people skills. Service writers are people with people skills make the best service writers. And we've had a service writing class that CarQuest has put on in the past, and the guy that teaches the class actually goes out in his business. He'll go out to a shop and he will teach them how to service write. This is what he does all over the country. And he will tell us that he says, I have recruited some of the best service writers I've ever had from restaurants where I'm having dinner, waiters and waitresses. He says, if you're a people person, I can teach you how to service write. Okay, he's not working on cars, but I can teach you how to service write. Once you have people skills, but he says, if you don't have people skills, I can't teach you that. So that's recognizing what your strengths are. If you're a quick thinker and you're a juggler and stuff, you can be a tech, you can be parts. If you're a people person, or a combination of both of those, you can multitask and do both of those. But the best service writers, I think you guys would agree that, the people that would do the best at it. And I'm not talking about being a person that, and I'm not going to use the B word, but the BS word. You don't have to tell untruths. Just be honest with people, but you have to be able to deal with people and be happy at your job and positive about it. So, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest difference between a service writer and a technician is that the service writer can't take his job home but the technician is, I mean, you know, I can't, like I said, I live in Lompoc, so as I'm driving home, especially when I got a car that I'm really struggling with, I'll be sitting there talking with my wife, who does nothing with the automotive industry, and, you know, and after 10 years of marriage, she's starting to come back to, well, did you check this?
Good for her.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Well, I just have a comment, and I'm just pleased to hear how diverse and interesting the work is. I mean, that it's always something new, that you keep learning, that you keep active, you know, you're challenged by it. And I think that's one of the aspects of the industry. You know, sometimes you think, okay, well, fixing something, it's like you do the same thing over and over. You're always like, you know, changing oil or changing tires or whatever. But it sounds like there's always challenges, there's problems to be solved, there's ways, you know, there's new things to be learned. It keeps your brain going, it keeps you happy. I mean, you guys have all been doing this basically your whole adult life, pretty much. So that speaks well, I think, for the profession and how engaging it is and how stimulating it can be.
And it's a growing profession. I mean, there's a massive shortage of technicians, you know. I mean, it's tough finding a good quality technician, you know, and it's not, I mean, and that goes just from shop to shop. Who someone that might work really well with me may not work really well with the next shop. But, you know, it's very difficult to find technicians out there.
I had a customer, an older gentleman that was in the service station business and repair for his entire life, and he made the comment to me one day, he retired 10 or 15 years ago when it was not nearly as complicated as it is now, and the analogy that he used was doctors versus mechanics or technicians, and he says doctors have one model. Okay?
That's
It
right.
hasn't changed. There's a lot out there. You read this guy?
Sub-model.
Two models.
Two models.
And they haven't changed in thousands of years. Human mind hasn't changed. There's technological breakthroughs in health, of course, but he says we have 500 models, and Volvo's different than Saab, and Saab's different than GM, and everybody has their own computers, and cars now have several multi-computers that talk to each other, and our world is just getting exponentially more complicated like that. And not that doctors have it easy by any means, but they have two models. That's
Yeah.
all. And it was a neat analogy when he put it that way, you know.
In their practice.
Yeah,
They're
they're
practicing.
practicing.
We're professionals.
practicing,
We're
So,
not allowed to make mistakes.
yeah.
Well, the other thing, Phil, is we have to fix our mistakes. They can bury theirs.
Yeah.
Right.
They do.
Right.
Would you say the internet has made diagnosing or help diagnose a problem more efficient?
Absolutely.
Because of Identifix and because of websites that you can bounce off problems off of so many different techs worldwide.
I use that every day. There's a ton of information out there in those websites. We pay, you know, a fee for that information every month, but definitely use that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, you know, I'd say a good portion of my day is spent, because we don't specialize in any one car. We work on just about anything that comes through the door. So it's impossible to know every system on every vehicle. So a lot of my day is spent researching theory and operation, you know, and that takes time. But yeah, the internet has been an invaluable tool. It may hamper service riders because now you got customers that think they're more informed, you know, but definitely helped us. Yeah, definitely.
I had a question for you, Steve. You
Yes.
said that was it a Volvo had a key fob that monitored heartbeat?
Only, it's a part of the alarm system, and when you unlock the car, if the thing's flashing red, they registered a heartbeat in the car, so you know someone's broken into the car.
So somebody's still in the car?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, someone's still in the car. So that's pretty frightening, but
So-
that technology's there, and
If a dog's stealing it, it doesn't register.
dog, cat.
Aliens.
You better get your dog.
That's
mark
good to
put in.
know.
Yeah, so.
That's also if you forgot your baby in the car. It's like, oh, shoot.
That's where it
okay.
is.
So what else?
I
Your
sold
chance,
that
guys.
car.
What kind of-
So is everyone here already enrolled in the automotive program? Is anybody thinking about enrolling and not enrolled yet? Oh, great. Do you have any questions? Just to put you on the spot back there? Yeah.
Actually, I have a question. What's the difference between like a shop versus like a dealership at a bigger shop? Like a Honda, you know how they have their own shop versus a little shop? Is there like personal time, say like there's an apprentice there like studying? Is it better for them to work at a shop versus one of those bigger dealerships?
Well, I can give you my experience because I worked at a dealership, and it's a good place to learn, and they can hide your mistakes with the warranty claims. So the things you break, they can just warranty it, doesn't cost the owner anything. Whereas an independent, you break it or blow an engine up, well, the owner's got to buy that. You won't last there very long. So it's good to cut your teeth at a dealership.
You know, and I never worked in a dealership, but you know, some of the better techs that I know today started there. Others have started in an independent, but you know, I think in an independent shop, you may or may not have a little bit more one-on-one training with one specific person. Like a lot of my training started with the owner of the business, and you know, and then from there it would progress to working with like master technicians that are already, you know, in the business. But I'm sure at a dealer level, I'm sure it's just about, I would imagine it's the same.
People that I've known in the dealerships, and I think you guys would agree with this, that if there is an exodus, they might start in the dealership and eventually work out into the private sector. Very few people start in the private sector and end up in the dealership.
That's
Doesn't go
true.
that way. Dealership seems to me to be incredibly good training, but you're working on, you're back in that one model, you know, one car. And that car has several models, but that's that one car. And you might get a guy that works his entire career or half his career in the Chevrolet agency, and he does not know anything about a Ford. He can't, you know, he can't fix that Ford. He does not know its idiosyncrasies. He has not been trained on it. He has general knowledge, but the idiosyncrasies he knows are just on Chevrolet. And I know a gentleman that worked at Toyota, and he could R&R do a valve job on a Toyota 4Runner V6 in incredible time, fast, incredibly fast. Give him a Chevy, no tools, no knowledge, no, and so a lot of the guys want more of a challenge, and they'll use a dealership as a stepping point and cut their teeth on it, and then they'll move out of the dealership into what we call the real world, because the real world is there's every car out there, and it's getting exponentially again more and more and more cars, more models, more manufacturers, more complications, and they want to learn more. They want to be more versatile and do that. And the dealership guys will counter with, well, I know more about that Chevy than your aftermarket guys know, because they know a little bit about a lot of cars, and I know a lot about this one car. And I don't agree with that, because the level of training that we all have now and we all put on now, I would put the guys that go to our CarQuest classes against any dealership mechanic. And not downplaying the dealership guy. They're not stupid, they're smart. But I would put some of our technicians in the aftermarket up against any one of them. You know, so I would, and that may not answer your question, but there isn't one that's necessarily, if there is one better than the other, I think our guys are better than them, or they're equal.
I had a comment towards that, towards the question. The way I look at a dealership, you drive off your car, you talk to somebody with a tire. Private shop, sometimes you talk to the person that's fixing your car. So you get to know the person that's actually fixing your car. So you guys will talk to the owner, if he works on the car. At a dealership, you pop your car, somebody's on the desk, takes your stuff, but you don't know who's fixing your car.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah,
You cut the car,
definitely.
give you a good look. You don't know if the person has some knowledge. You don't know what's going on with that person. At a private shop, you see them all the time. Your regular customers come in, they know you by your name. So.
That's a good point. I had a quick car repair question that came up, like, because now both of you work on all kinds of cars. That's right, and obviously Larry or Phil, you supply to everything. Do places that specialize in certain kinds of autos, do they tend to be more expensive or does it matter, or like, because I was thinking those places that are specializing in Volvos or Mercedes or something, they just know how to do that, so they probably do it fast and do it theoretically very well. I was just curious.
No,
Kind of competitive across the board.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think the labor times are pretty much the same. You'll find that dealership, you know, labor rate's always higher. They charge more at the dealership than an independent would. So you probably get a better price at an independent.
Oh, interesting.
Typically.
Yeah.
Because you're not
You
paying
might
for the big
find-
you don't have the big overhead that the dealer has.
You might find the labor rates are similar, but if it's a more exotic car like a Mercedes or BMW, the parts might cost more.
Right.
So the
Oh,
price
yeah.
ticket might be higher, but it
Right.
wasn't the labor.
Right, right. That shows you that this is not my area of expertise.
It's a good question.
I have an honest mechanic though.
Question. How you work with your clients to retain them as a, it's
Well-
one life of it's an average, after 2 years, mostly you change everybody, your clients, or you can keep them for 10, 15 years, what?
I have
What's
clients
that?
I've had for over 20 years, and now I'm doing their kids, you know, cars, and pretty soon they're gonna have kids, I'll be doing their cars. So, you know, you gain that trust, you know, being, you know, like you touched on it, you're talking to me, I'm diagnosing, I'm fixing your car, or, you know, I'm the guy you talk to, and I'm taking care of your car. And you're not talking to a service writer or a service advisor, and then go to the cashier, and you only talk to the guy that opened the hood of your car. So you're hoping they did it right, or they did it at all. So, you know, it's a trust issue and that personal issue that I give as an independent.
How do
So-
you build that trust? Like, have you thought about that?
I just do it. I'm just an honest, you know,
By
happy
doing
guy. I
the
love what
job
I
right.
do. You know, hey, I'm gonna fix it. You know,
There's no
it's
problem.
good. And they trust me, and
Yeah.
I do a good job.
I'm not
I don't have any comebacks. The car's fixed right the first time, and everyone's happy. And
I've
just-
had the experience with my mechanic where a couple of times I've taken it and he said, I don't think anything's wrong with it. I think it's okay. It's, you know, and I'm always like, wow, he could have, you know, he could have charged me for that. And that really built my trust, for instance. And I was like, if he's willing to, you know, spend 15 minutes looking at it and deciding that it doesn't really need a new part, I'm going to come back to him. You know, I want to give him the money once it does need a new
and
part.
that's my best advertising, word of mouth, right there.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna tell 10 other people, hey, this guy's gonna take care of your car. He's not gonna rip you off. So it
Right.
works.
I think that when you're talking to the person that's fixing the car, that you communicate the problem better. That the mechanic is gonna have a much better idea of what questions to ask, so that the repairs go smoother and faster and better. If you take it in and you're just dealing with a service writer, like Bill said, a service writer's a people person, doesn't really necessarily know how the car works. So they're just kind of listening to the person and just jotting down what they're saying, and that's it. But to save time and money, I think that the more experience you have communicating with the customer and the knowledge base, you'll get the job done faster. So I think that's an advantage of an independent over a dealership.
I agree.
If you've ever gone to a dealership and you tell them your problem and they write it up, you notice it says customer claims that this is the problem.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah.
That's not building trust.
They kind of just leave it.
Leaves it. You have to diagnose the problem
All right.
around there.
Yes.
I have a question. So how does somebody get, once they have their education, what would you give as advice to somebody who wanted to find a job in the industry or get themselves started? Like they wanted to find a job with somebody.
Yeah, best place to start is start talking with the instructors at City College. I mean, you know, they know the people in this industry, especially, you know, in a smaller area like Santa Barbara. They might have an idea of who's looking, you know, and you got to get out and you just got to start, you know, talking to some of the shops. You know, it doesn't hurt to just stop in and say, you know, tell them who you are, what you've done, and you're looking for a job. And you know, it's tough right now, being the economy being what it is. It's tough, but you know, you have to be a little persistent about it. But you know, you gotta get out there. And I said, but I really think, you know, talking with my high school auto shop teacher, he was the one that turned me on to the place I'm working now. So it's, you know, I think it's probably your best resources.
And how do you, as employers and managers, how do you tend to find employees when you're looking for them?
talk to the city college instructor.
You do?
So I got my tech now. David, he's right here, just left. He
Oh.
works at my shop in the morning, goes to school in the afternoon, and he'll be graduating pretty soon, so I have him full-time in the shop. He's been a great worker, hard worker, and really sharp. So I'm really impressed. And you'll find most independent shops in town will pretty much only hire a city college, student or graduate.
Oh,
It's kind
interesting.
of just because we want someone that has a basic knowledge of the car. And then they'll need some training, for the product we're working on, but they're gonna have a basic, understanding of what's going on.
Excellent.
To even walk in the door to, trust them to, destroy a $40,000 car real quick. So if they don't know what they're
Right.
doing, so
Right.
it's a big, big leap of faith. But being in this program, it's an excellent program they have up here. And most of the independents will use them.
I have a question, probably to Phil. Can students come to some of the IAPA meetings and get to know shop owners, or?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then once you start to know some shop owners, that opens a lot of doors.
And the flip side of that is it shows the shop owners that you have a strong interest in this industry. Because, it is, like I said, it's tough to find a good tech, and a lot of it is, or part of it anyway, is desire. You've got to really want to do this job. It's not just something you're going to walk in, clock in 8 o'clock and go home at 5 o'clock. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. So, yeah, I mean, to take part in like the IAPA, it's going to show the owners of these shops that this person is really interested in this industry. So.
As employers, I think, and I think all of us the same thing, we like to see a prospective employee that wants to show up at the shop and say, I want to be your sweeper. I want to start here. My best counter guys have started as drivers. We have hired people at the counter, but my best counter people, by and large, with really no exceptions, have started off as drivers, worked their way up. So I think the best technicians, and I can name a bunch of technicians in this town that started off going to a shop and saying, I need a job, can I be your floor sweeper? I got a guy in Montecito, the guy that's going to end up owning the shop out there, started off, went through the city college program, Hunter, of course, I'm talking about, went through the program, got hired out of high school as their cleanup boy, and then worked at this shop through his education at City College, and he just went right up because he's a special person, but still that's where he started.
Well, it seems like those special people understand that, and all of you, I think, touched on this when you were introducing yourselves, is that hard work is fundamental. I mean, and wanting to just work. Because we just had a culinary one of these chats, and they were saying the same thing. They said, go into a kitchen and say you want to wash dishes. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like you want to be surrounded with your stuff. You want to be in the environment that you want to work in. And
you show and you demonstrate that you're not ready. You're not willing to. It's 5 o'clock. I'm gone. No, you want to be there. You want to learn that. It's exactly what you're talking about. It takes that person with that drive to really shine amongst. There's a lot of competition for the job. Even in our shortage of technicians, there's still a competition for jobs out there everywhere. The one that's going to stick up above the crowd, that the employees are going to look at and go, that's the one I want, is the one that's going to show that kind of,
initiative.
Goes above and beyond the Call of Duty.
Yep, yeah. It's not complicated. Any occupation.
And is a nice person and nice to work with. That's important too.
Well, there is a flip side. You really have to have thick skin working